Hi, this is Dennis Snipe, host of the thought-provoking, solution-oriented talk show, daring to make a difference in our communities, entitled FocusTalk. And I'm looking for you to be the next featured guest on FocusTalk. If you're an entrepreneur, an author, community-based organization, artist, or if you're simply daring to make a difference in your community, I need to hear from you. Here's what I need you to do. Send an email to dennis@dennissnipe.com with your name, brief description of what you do, contact number, and why you should be a guest on FocusTalk. I look forward to hearing from you soon. In the meantime, please continue to stay focused. You're in tune to Chicago's most popular college music radio station. 89.3 is WKKC. This is Focus Talk, the thought-provoking, solution-oriented talk show, daring to make a difference in our communities. We're talking on a regular basis because the answers really matter. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about politics, religion, personal development, finances, history, music, and then from time to time, we are spotlighting positive people who are doing positive things right here in the Inglewood community, throughout the Chicagoland area, as well as the entire nation. I'm your host, Dennis Snipe. Well, he's not new to the Focus Talk community. Mr. Joshua Pondexter is with us today, and he is a financial expert. And today we are talking about estate planning. Mr. Pondexter, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, Dennis, and it's always well to be here with you. You make me feel so comfortable.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And it is a pleasure to have you in the studio, and to a return visit, yes, that is, to talk about financial matters. That's something that's on the top rung of everyone's list, yep, and how to be able to save more money. But today we want to talk about financial planning, yes, estate planning, yes, to be more specific.
Yes.
And it seems as if, though, especially in the African American community, nobody wants to talk about dying.
Right, absolutely.
And to deal with the issues that go along with that, as to your house, your home, yes, the money that you may have you've saved your entire life, and then also probate.
Yes.
You know,
yes,
depending if we don't have things in order. So what are some of the basic things that we need to know?
Okay. The probate is the end of the statement, right? So we're going to talk about that's the end.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about living, right? So estate planning is not about dying; it's about living, right?
Okay.
So you want to protect your assets while you're alive. You want to give them a shelter, a safe place. You want to protect them from lawsuits, judgment, liens, and potentially divorces, right? So those are very critical pieces, right? As you know, this is America, one of the most litigious societies in the world. People will sue you when you have nothing. Don't let them think you have something in that nice looking suit, right? So we want to show our community how to protect their assets. And so it's really catching on when you talk about, doing trusts as opposed to wills, as the people taking assets out of their name and putting it in a trust. Our community is getting very comfortable with that. That is a piece of estate planning. So those type of documentations or documents help shelter you from lawsuits, judgment, liens, and divorces.
Now, Mr. Pondexter, do I still need to do that even if I don't have a lot of money?
Good question. So if you don't have a lot of money, but you have a single family home and you live in Crook County, right? You want to protect that, right? Shouldn't say that about our beloved county, Cook County. So Cook County, if you have a single family home and it goes through, as you stated earlier, the probate process, that could take up to 6 months to 24 months and cost as much as $27,000 to probate that asset, where a little planning could have prevented that.
So just to be specific,
yes,
what is probate?
Good question. Excellent question. Probate is the legal process that when one dies, to get your name off an asset and then to put someone else's name on an asset, right? So Joshua Pondexter, I have a son named Joshua Pondexter. If my name is on my assets and he wants to put his name on it to sell it, he's going to have to go to probate if I don't have it structured in a trust or an arrangement that allows it to bypass probate. So once again, probate is the legal process to take my name off an asset, whether it be my home, my car, my boat, my stocks, my bonds, my mutual funds, and then put my heir's name on it, right?
Okay.
If I don't do that prior to death.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, would it be the same? Let's say that I have a joint account with my grandmother or my mother or
Yes.
father or a loved one.
Right.
Now, would it make a difference if it said Dennis and Big Mama or Dennis or Big Mama?
No, actually, it wouldn't make a difference because it wouldn't go to probate, right?
Okay.
But that's what I call shade tree estate planning, right? Shade tree mechanic working in the backyard,
Right.
Don't always turn out right, all right? So that way of assessing assets or naming assets have some problems, right? Have some liability issues. Let's not say the bank account. Let's say the house. Grandmother is a senior. She's getting the senior freeze on her property. Soon as she put your name on the property, she's in danger of losing that tax exemption because you're not a senior, right?
Oh.
Also, she's in danger of estate taxes and gift tax penalty. Say that a house is worth $100,000. She has, in effect, gave you $50,000 of value, right? You can only give about $14,000, $15,000 per year to a person, but in that one transaction, she has given you $50,000, and so Uncle Sam, anything over the $15,000, looking for a 20% tax on it, right? So there's more elegant, efficient ways to do estate planning, and so that's what our company does.
Now, doesn't estate planning cost a great deal, possibly more than I care to spend at this particular point?
Good question. And that's one of the things, because we specifically deal with 99.9% of our clients are from our community. We make sure those services are affordable. Right, so it is an expensive process, but you come to us, you will be charged a third of what you would get out in the open market to get those services done.
Okay, so now do I need to go through all of my assets as far as everything that I own and make a list of different things as well as their value and then put it all together, or how does it work?
Yeah, good question, excellent question, because that's exactly the totality of your estate, right?
Okay.
Your house, your cars, your income, your mutual funds, your 401ks, and so then we want to get a fair market value of those items when we transfer those into the trust, right? Because now hopefully those things will grow and we will transfer them to the next generation without excessive taxation, probate, delay, things of that nature. So of course, as those assets grow, there's going to be capital gains that incur. So we want to mark what was the value of it before we transfer it, so we can do some taxes manipulation on that, rather, where you won't be overtaxing the next generation.
Okay. So now is there a difference between a trust and estate planning? Is that the same thing?
Well, yeah, well, there's a fine line. So because the trust is a part of the estate planning process. It's a document. A trust is I liken it to a corporation. It's its own separate entity. It can have its own separate EIN number, and then you can transfer assets into it, right? And so since you're transferring those assets into the Snipes family trust, they no longer belong to Dennis Snipe. Right? And so now you have intentionally impoverished yourself. You own nothing, but you control everything. So we're structuring you like a Rockefeller, right?
Now, is a EIN number and a social security number the same thing? Do I need both of them?
Well, you're going to have both of them, but they're not the same thing. The
What's an EIN?
EIN number is an employee identification number, and it goes for corporations, trusts, things that they have a separate social security fingerprint, if you will.
Okay, so it's something totally different than my regular social security.
Right, exactly. In that way, it's moving personal liability. Everything you have in your social security number is your personal liability. We talked about that. We want to move stuff off our personal liability. Now they're liable to the trust.
Okay. And so that will be able to now if I am, let's say that I'm a senior.
Yes.
And would I still need to go through the estate planning process?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in my practice, which we've been doing estate planning for over 15 years, I find that those that are more ready to do the process are those who are more in touch with their mortality. Right. And this is the things that are on their mind. They're thinking about transferring their assets to the heirs. They have seen people go through probate. They have seen people lose properties through lawsuits and judgments and liens and divorces. Right. So they're very conscious of that, and they want to avoid those processes. But let me say in the estate planning package that I offer, there are a series of documents, right? Not only do you have the living trust, the revocable living trust, you have powers of attorney, both medical and financial, right? Because you need those. You hear stories all the time about a spouse could make a medical decision for their wife or husband because the doctor said no, we're gonna give them this life altering operation, right? But you want to pull the plug, right? So you need these documents, right? We provide what we call a living will, right, in the process, so you won't pay down your assets trying to keep you alive when that's not what you want to do. We have what we call a pour over will, because there are assets that you don't get in the trust and you die that can go to probate, but with a pour over will they pour over to the trust and avoid that costly process. So we have a complete comprehensive package that will help our clients through the process, and we walk them through this process step by step. It's professional. The process is professional. It's comprehensive, and it's complimentary. So you won't spend a dime to learn, to learn to know what you need to do.
Now, you spoke just a moment ago about the power of attorney.
Yes.
And so now, as a power of attorney something that's necessary that every person should have as it relates to estate planning, or as you mentioned, in the situation of a crisis with emergency or surgery or something of that nature? Yeah,
absolutely. So let's look at a spouse, husband and wife, right? They definitely should have it, because you cannot sign your spouse's name financially, right? You need those power attorneys to do those things. A single person, if you become incapacitated, who's going to take care of your financial affairs? So you can create a financial power attorney, and then it becomes springing when you have the incident. You don't need to give them the power now. So, you give it to your brother or your sister. They only get these powers when you become incapacitated. So they spring into action at that event. So you feel very safe not having someone out there been able to sign your name where you fully capacitated.
So now that's just not automatic as far as my wife or either my husband or my significant other. They wouldn't have the ability to speak on my behalf just simply because we're married or we're partners?
Good question. No, not legally. Not legally. They legally cannot sign for you. They can't sign the mortgage for you. They can't do that. You cannot go down for your wife and interact with the Social Security Department, with the pension department. None of those things you won't be able to do unless you have a financial power attorney on your spouse.
Okay. And it's the same thing with a parent. So me as a parent and my 13-year-old daughter is injured, then I would have to have a power of attorney with her as well?
Well, that's no, because she's still a minor. She's totally you totally have power over her. But it's best that you would have some type of medical document on her, because we have heard stories all the time about some parents been standing on the outside in the medical profession making decisions about their children, right? The recent case was that they were trying to bring their child over here to America to get some medical care. It was an infant. The parents finally gave up on that issue because the baby was really too sick and was dying. But yeah, these are things. And then that specific question is something that we want to look at the clients and address, right? But when we're talking about adults, a child and a parent, a child taking care of an aging parent, taking care of their medical information. They're doing it anyway, but they don't have the legal backing to do those things.
Okay. All right. So basically what you're saying, Mr. Pondexter, is that in every situation that I should have some sort of legal paperwork in place just in case something happens.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is shoring up what I call possibilities that could happen. When you shore up potential leak, right? You know what I'm saying? So you don't know when it's going to leak, but trust, the roof is going to leak if you don't continue to shore it up and patch it up. So we're always bombarded with legal realities, right? That can cause an accidental hit and run or any type of thing that could cause someone to try to sue us. So estate planning is about putting some protection between yourself, making sure your wishes are carried out when you make your transition, that your assets go to the people that you want them to, and they're not being ate up by state and federal governments who are looking for assets. So probate is not the only issue as we age. Another issue that's very prevalent is Medicaid, right? Probate and Medicaid spend down destroying our community, right? Our seniors are going into Medicaid, and then their assets are being eaten up. Those assets that would go to their children, and now they go into the state, right? You worked in the state for 40 years, and you have a medical emergency where you need to go to the nursing home. They don't want you to spend down all your stuff, right? And these things are becoming more and more complicated to keep those assets and transfer them to the next generation, right? So we need to do some planning up front. We need to get ahead of the curve. This is critical in our community. One of the reasons that I do this, and I'm so passionate about it, I've been doing it for the last 15 years, is that, as I state, Medicaid and probate is devastating the assets in the African American communities of assets that we could give to the next generation.
Okay. All right. Now, how can I get more information?
Absolutely. JoshuaPondexter.com. That's my website. Joshua Pondexter on all social media. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I kind of like my name, right? So
spell Pondexter for me.
Certainly. Pondexter. First name Joshua. Joshua. And I like it stirred, not shaken.
Okay. Okay. Now, are there other areas that you give seminars on, Mr. Pondexter, that
Absolutely.
you teach on that you service the community?
Absolutely, service community. So not only we're passionate about estate planning, we're passionate about saving and investing. We're passionate about teaching our people to avoid the minefields of the retirement field, because the S&P 500 is yielding 9.6% return annually over the last 77 years, but the typical investor is only receiving about 2 to 3% most, right? So our goal is to show our community how to receive that 9.6% without all these intermediaries, all these investment houses, all these experts. All these experts is doing nothing but taking off the top. Right, and so those are another area that we're very passionate about, is to make sure that when you put $100 to work for you, that you get the most out of that $100 when you invest it, right? That you get your fair return of the American market, one of the greatest economies ever created, and we will not build wealth unless we, for the long term, 20, 30 years, extract some of that growth out of America.
Okay. Mr. Pondexter, it is great to have you in the studio again.
Yes, sir.
To come and give us some information on the things that we didn't know about as it relates to the community, for growth, development, savings, estate planning.
Yes, sir.
And we look forward to having you back in the studio again.
Anytime, my friend.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mr. Pondexter.
Yes, sir.
You're in tune to Chicago's most popular college music radio station, 89.3 WKKC.
This is Focus Talk with Dennis Snipe on 89.3 WKKC.